My name is Mark Corson, and basically I'm an Associate Professor of Geography here at Northwest. This is my 11th year, I believe. And I'm also a colonel, not too long I hope to be general in the U.S. Army Reserve. So I do live sort of a dual life. I've made reference to being sort of schizophrenic, but in a good way. And so the question is, why do I do it? Let me tell you how I got in the geography business. I actually was on active duty in the Army from 1983 up until 1994, and I was a tank officer. I served in Europe and later Fort Stewart, Georgia, and that, of course, was during the good old days of the Cold War until the Cold War ended. I ended up going to graduate school at the University of South Carolina for geography with the Army paying for it, because my next assignment was to teach geography at the United States Military Academy at West Point. And that's actually how I got in the geography business. And what I figured out at West Point teaching full-time was that I loved teaching geography as much as I loved being in the Army. And so in 1994, you'll recall that the Cold War basically ended in 90, fall of the Soviet Union. In 1994, the Army got much, much smaller, a big drawdown. And they offered me quite a good buyout package to basically leave the active Army. I went straight to the Army Reserve, but also the GI Bill paid for my PhD in geography. And so I basically had no break. I went right back to grad school. I got my PhD in geography, did a one-year deal in South Carolina teaching geographic techniques to teachers so they could teach geography, and then got the job here, and that's where I've been ever since. But in the meantime, one of the ways that I got by with my wife and two kids in grad school, even though the GI Bill was paying for school, was the very day that I got out of the Army, the very next day I was in the Army Reserve, and actually became a transportation officer. And my first job in transportation was supervising the loading and unloading of ships at a port. Seems odd for the Army, but you know, we ship a lot of stuff. And that was in Charleston, South Carolina. And then when we ended up coming out here, I did a number of other logistics jobs. And so that's how I've been doing both all this time. I currently command the 561st Regional Support Group. And basically, we can either run a forward operating base or do multifunctional logistical support. In fact, we just came off an exercise in June at Fort Hunter Liggett, California, where we provided all of the supplies, services, transportation, anything you can think of for sustainment, logistical sustainment for 4,000 troops for a month. And that was quite exciting, and it went very well. And I will soon, in October, take command of the 94th Training Division, which is teaches force sustainment. In other words, we teach all of the soldiers that are learning a new skill in the areas of personnel services, quartermaster, which is basically supply and services, everything from food to fuel to supplies, transportation, all aspects of transportation, interestingly enough to include people who operate Army boats, and also ordnance, which would be ammunition handling and maintenance. My headquarters is at Fort Lee, Virginia, and I'll commute, but I will remain what we call a troop program unit soldier, which is a part-time soldier. And I will, the old thing is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. That's about as much time as you get off with the family. It's actually most of my weekends. It's almost all summer now, and even, unfortunately, a little bit of time during the school year. So it's I teach everything from intro to geography to geography of North America, geography of Europe, geography of the Middle East, political geography, military geography, geographic foundations of geospatial intelligence. And if you'll notice, when I talk about the Middle East, when I talk about Europe, political, military, geospatial intelligence, all of those things are related to what I do in the military. And so what I didn't mention in the military is I have been a peacekeeper in Kosovo. I have been to Iraq and Kuwait, and I've also traveled on exercises to Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey, and I've been to Israel. So,
wow.
I think a key point for why I'm able to do both and why I like to do both is there's a real synergy between my civilian job and my military job. And the students, I appreciate when they understand, in a way they make this might sound a little arrogant, but when you have a substitute teacher where you have to do alternative assignments or work a blended class, that's a sacrifice on their part. I still think it's very good instruction. Sometimes it works out even better. But I appreciate that the students understand the contribution I'm making, as well as what I bring back. And then my family, they're awesome because, I'm gone typically 3 weekends out of the month, and then for months at a time during the summer. And they're very supportive, but it's a sacrifice. My daughters are 14 and 16, and they need their dad, but they understand what the nature of the beast is. Probably the singularly most exciting, fulfilling, adrenaline-rushed time of my life, other than getting married and the birth of my children, was actually commanding a battalion in combat in Iraq. I love being in the classroom working with the students. We might have PowerPoint, we might have videos, we might have this, that, and the other, but I tell people that I'm still the prime media element, and just giving a high-energy, dynamic lecture and having a discussion with students. Like an intro. Typically an intro, I have a full class of maybe 100, 115 people. We're not going to have much of a discussion. It's a gen ed course and all that. But I love, and people do not understand what geography is about. They're like, wow, where everything is, huh? It's like there's so much more to it. Climatology in terms of climate studies, that's geography. Meteorology in terms of weather, that's geography. All the stuff about landforms, that's geography. Human geography, population, culture, political geography, urban geography, economic geography, on and on and on. That's geography. Well, I think three things keep me motivated: my family, my students, and my soldiers. And I think sort of the theme of the conversation was being able to balance all three of those responsibilities.